Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom. Brother Nakwam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashima Mashiach wa Malak Yahushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming from Mashiach wa Malak Yahushai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing the husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to everybody tuning in live. Nahum Yasha Allah, Ephraimite Ak, Anthony Knox from Egypt to Israel, Matt Jones, Byron Robinson, Michelle Y, HBK Int, Keon B, and Smile. I love Pyres, Richard Perez, Brother Believe. We got Next Israel, T Sellers, Don Israel, Yafei Israel, Yahweh's Chosen, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. The topic of this code cut is Revelation chapter 21 breakdown, the holy city, and biblical secrets. Right? Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashima Mashiach wa Malak Yahushai, diving straight into Revelation, the 21st chapter, right, which is chapter and the entire Bible and the visions that John the Revelator or John the Apostle saw as he was exiled on the Isle of Patmos for the word of God. Right? Revelation chapter 21 and 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. So John actually saw these things. A lot of things that you read about in Revelation, John visually saw, right? He saw them, but they are a similitude for other things or people, kingdoms, places, etc. John saw a beast coming up out of the earth. He really saw that. He saw a woman sitting upon a scarlet colored beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, right? He literally saw these creatures and beasts, man. You know, this creature with a face like a man and a hair like a woman and locusts, but it's all symbolic. It's all symbolic for particular things, right? That was talking about a missile, right? The Lord speaks about missiles. He speaks about war helicopters, right? The Lord speaks about all types of technology and things that he saw, but he had to describe it with an ancient mind, right? A lot of things that he saw were futuristic technology described with an ancient mind. Revelation 9 speaks about missiles, right? Revelation 9 speaks about war helicopters. All right, there's a lot of things that are written that have ancient terminology with futuristic technology, right? Hosea 12 and 10, I have also spoken by the prophets, and have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So the Lord speaks directly to his people by prophets and gives them vision after vision, right? And he uses similitudes. So you may see something that says, I saw a scarlet colored beast, but it's a symbolic representation of the so-called white man and the Roman Empire or the modern day NATO, EU, and their allegiance with America, right? So let's go back to Revelation 21. Revelation 21 is a similitude. All right, I saw a new heaven, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Now, this new heaven and a new earth, and it not being any more sea, is, well, first and foremost, heaven, earth, and sea are always used together interchangeably throughout the scriptures. And I had a few precepts I want to go into. Right, first and foremost, let's go to the book of Exodus, right, chapter 20 and verse 11. You always see the heaven, earth, and sea being used in similar fashion, right? Exodus 20:11, for in 6 days the Lord made the heaven, earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So the same thing in Revelation, you read about the heaven, the earth, and the sea. Now, the heaven, earth, and the sea in Revelation 21 is speaking about the rulerships and this present day world and the kingdoms that run this world. The modern day heaven and earth and sea are the Russians. They're the heavens, right? The Americans. You understand, the so-called Chinese, all right? The so-called Japanese, the EU. They are the heavens or the powers that be. The word heaven, it literally is talking about a highly exalted kingdom. It's not speaking about where the Heavenly Father dwells in. And there are different heavens. The firmament is called a heaven. There's a second heaven, right, which are the waters above the firmament. There's a third heaven where the Most High dwells at. And then there's a heaven of rulership, right? But all throughout the Bible, Revelation chapter 21 is taking on that same similitude, or that same spirit of the heaven, earth, and sea being mentioned all together at one time. Let's go to Psalm chapter 69. Psalm chapter 69 and verse 34. Let the heaven and earth praise him, the seas and everything that moveth therein. So the heaven, earth, and sea is pretty much an amalgamation of the creation of the Most High, right? Because you have beasts on earth, things in the sea, and things in heaven. It sums up everything. The heaven, earth, and seas sums up just about everything in totality with the creation of the Most High. Now, Revelation 21, a new heaven and a new earth and no more sea. It means a completely new rulership, a new creation, a new way of life, new powers to be, right? Because the heaven, earth, and sea again is a totality of the Most High's creation. And right now, the heaven, earth, and sea is polluted. The heaven, earth, and sea has sodomy in it. The heaven, earth, and sea advocates transformers. The heaven, earth, and sea advocates GMO foods and pesticides. That's part of this heaven and this earth and this sea. It's part of this life, man. Like the Lord said in Isaiah 24, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Isaiah 24 and 5. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. It's lucky. 24 and 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. So everything in this life is polluted, tainted. The Lord said, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction. So everything's tainted and corrupt here. The minds of men are tainted and corrupt. Morals of society are tainted and corrupt. Principles that you should stand on are no longer relevant. Things that are righteous are now being called wicked. This is the fruit of the first heaven and the earth and the sea. All right, let's get one more. All right, I kind of paraphrased it, but let's go to Micah chapter 2. Micah 2 and 10. Arise, ye, and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction. So that's why the Most High is going to create a new heaven and a new earth. We don't have sodomy being advocated and all manner of just vile chemicals in the air, right? And vile things in the water, and cloned creatures and babies born in laboratories. And there's a new rulership coming on the scene. It says, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Now let's deal with that word heaven. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 34. When it says there's no more heaven, it's speaking about the rulerships of this world now. Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. So does that mean the Heavenly Father is really going to take his sword and bathe it in heaven, and he has soap up there, he's bathing it, and he gets your dry off towel, and he dries the sword off, and he wraps it up, and he puts oil? No, man. His sword is what? His judgment. You understand? The Most High said, my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea is the modern day heaven. Who's Idumea? Edom. Who is Edom? The so-called white man. You understand? He's the modern day heaven. He's the modern day rulership. Let's go to 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away. See that we read that earlier in Revelation 21, that the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Does that mean all of the angels are going to die? You can't think that the word heaven is only applicable to where the Most High dwells at, in Yahweh Shai. Otherwise, if you take this into that context, I mean, where the Most High dwells at is going to be done. It's going to pass away. But when you understand that these different rulerships are referred to as kingdoms, and which the heavens shall pass away with the great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. And that's going to be the effect of when the chariots come and the missiles come. That great noise is that boom, when them bombs hit at the epicenter of every major city, right? And if you're in a certain mile radius, you're going to feel that heat, man. And all of the elements, the aluminum, the titanium, the copper, all of the elements that make up these buildings and houses and condominiums, it's all going to be melted with fervent heat. Verse 11, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? So now that you know that the destruction draws nigh, make sure that your conversation, your speech, and your works are in wisdom, looking forward and hasting into the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So how can the heavens be on fire? Well, when Russia drops the Satan 1 and the Satan 2, when Babylon the Great drops the Moab, when the EU drops their missiles, these heavens are going to be on fire, burned, and dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. So this links back up with Revelation 21. We don't want to be here in this old heaven and old earth where the sea is. We want to be in a new heaven and a new earth, a new creation, right? Wherein dwelleth righteousness. All right, let's get another precept. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 65. Right? Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 17. I'll start at 16. That he who blesseth himself in the earth shall bless himself in the God of truth. And he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth. Because the former troubles are forgotten, because they are hid from mine eyes. So again, all your troubles, the stress, the hell, that belongs to this world, the first heaven and the first earth. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. And that's why Yahweh Shai calls the new heavens and the new earth, he calls it the world to come. Right? This is called the present evil world, and then you have another world to come, wherein dwelleth righteousness. We always go into that. You have three worlds. You have the elder world during the time of Adam. You have the present evil world that we dwell in now, and you have the world to come. Right? The world to come is that new heavens and that new earth. Right? Let's get one more quick precept on that. This is the book of St. Matthew, chapter 12 and 32. And whosoever speaketh the word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whosoever speaketh against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, that's the heavens and the earth and the sea, neither in the world to come. See that? Neither in the world to come. Revelation 21 is speaking about these rulerships that are going to pass away and be completely destroyed. And when it says there was no more sea, the sea has always been symbolic for the other nations. Right? The heaven and the earth symbolizes The heavens are the rulerships, the earth are the wicked that dwell therein, and the sea is speaking about all the other nations. All right. The sea is speaking about the other nations. Let's prove that. Let's go to Isaiah chapter. There's a lot we can get. We may get two, right? Isaiah chapter 57 and verse 20. But the wicked are like the troubled sea, when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. So the wicked, they're like the troubled sea. They're in constant motion, right? Constant aggression against man. They devour man. Man gets devoured by waves. Man gets drowned by the sea. It's a tumult in the sea, and they're in constant moving. And they cast up mire and dirt. That's what these waters cast up. They cast up Islam. The waters of the Ishmaelites cast up the cobblestone, right? The waters of the so-called white man cast up sorcery and deceit. The waters of Moab, they cast up Buddhism and Taoism and all manner of folly. All these nations cast up mire and dirt. They're likened unto the troubled sea. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 17, right? Isaiah chapter 17 and verse 13. I'm going to start at 12. Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas. People are referred to as seas. And like we always go into, when there's it's like a crowd of people, whether it's a baseball game, a football game, a concert, they all do something called the what? It's called the wave. Why do they all do a wave? Because they're a sea of people. And then when you actually see it, it looks like a wave in the ocean. Famous rappers, right? Singers. If the crowd is really into what they're bringing out, these guys will jump in the crowd, and they call it crowd surfing. You can only surf in a sea. But they jump into this great multitude of people, and it looks like they're surfing, and the guys are holding them up with their hands, man. So surfing, doing the wave, all of that shows further proof that the Bible is real, that the nations are referred to as the sea. Right? Let me pull this up. Sea of people. And we brought this out before. We'll just bring it out again for edification's sake. See that? This is a sea of people. All right, it's hip talk for a multitude of people. See that? Hold on. Sea of people. Let's see if we can type in meaning. All right, I kind of spelled it wrong. Sea of people. A very large number of people. All right. Maybe the phrase originally implied the sort of gentle ebb and swell of movement made by a lot of people in a large enclosed space. But I think it is mostly used to just mean a very large number of people. And one imagines looking at the square from above and from a distance, as you would view the sea from a height. So it's the exact same thing, right? It's the exact same thing, a mass of people. So let's go back to Revelation, actually Isaiah. So it reads Isaiah 7 and 12, woe to the multitude of many people, which make the noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations, that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. Again, the sea is symbolic for the nations. And what came up out of the sea? The beast, right? So if there's no more sea, there's going to be no more evil beasts coming out of the sea. When you read Daniel, the 7th chapter, Revelation, the 13th chapter, you read about nations coming up out of the sea. And all they brought was evil and sin on the earth. So if there's no more sea, you're not going to have these evil kingdoms arise up out of the waters anymore. Right? Let's get that real quick to show that these nations, they actually come up out of the sea. Revelation 13 and 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. So yeah, this is speaking about the Roman Empire, right? There are beasts that come up out of the sea. All right. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 3. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. So the sea is symbolic for the nations, and it gives birth unto evil kingdoms. So if there's no more sea, it means you're going to have peace. You're not going to have tumults and all types of wars and destruction on the earth, because these nations will not rise into power anymore. Right? Let's move on. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, this holy city, John, when you read this in Revelation, right? Let's pull this up. Holy city, let's see, Revelation, holy city coming down from heaven, right? Let's show you this. This is what the world wants you to believe, right? Now, you may say, well, I thought the Jehovah Witness, they put that out there, and I thought the holy city was going to come down. This is not Christianity, right? And it's when you'll find out why it's a cube, all right? Why it looks like a big cube. But nevertheless, the holy city is going to be built on the earth. It's not going to come down from the sky. That would negate a great multitude of prophecies that go into the other nations building up the kingdom on the earth. It's not just going to be, Yahweh Shah even cut that. He said, neither shall they say lo here or lo there, right? For behold, the kingdom of God or the Most High is within you. So it's not just going to be a big city coming down, man. And we're just sitting there, where's the city? All right, there it goes, right? And it falls right down, and we just open the door and kick our feet up and tell the nations what to do. That's not how prophecy works. Luke chapter 17 and verse 20. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees, when the kingdom of the Most High should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of the Most High cometh not with observation. Meaning you're not going to watch the kingdom just materialize on the earth. You got to put in work, right? It starts with us. Neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of the Most High is within you. So that cuts those Jehovah Witness and whatever other denomination of Christianity that believes that an actual city is going to come down to the earth. That cuts that, but also the prophecies and the promises of old, right? Speak about how the kingdom is actually going to get built. Isaiah chapter 60, and I'm going to start at verse 14, right? I'll start at 10. Isaiah chapter 60 and 10. And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Who's going to build up our walls? The so-called white man, the so-called Arab, the so-called Chinese, the so-called Japanese. All these strange nations, these demonic heathen, idolaters and blasphemers. We're going to enslave them in the biggest slave trade ever in human existence and round them up, and they're going to build up the kingdom of heaven. Even King Solomon had men out there digging up stones, digging up precious jewels. I believe that's First Kings. So we can't really go into the mind of Christianity and say, wow, look at this big city coming out the sky. That's not biblical at all. Right? Let's see. First Kings chapter 9. Let's see where I want to start. Okay, this First Kings chapter 9 and verse 20. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able utterly to destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service unto this day. So King Solomon enslaved the Hamites, the so-called Africans, right? They were originally supposed to just exterminate them off the land. They couldn't do it. So Solomon put them in slavery. And what did they do? Right? I want to go to First Kings. Actually, I'm going to read on. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots and his horsemen. These were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's work, 550, which bear rule over the people that wrought the work. So Solomon had Israelite slave masters that bear rule over the heathen that worked. And they what kind of work were they doing? Right? Well, they were picking up where they left off in First Kings chapter 5. Right? Let's go to First Kings chapter 5 and verse 15. And Solomon had 70,000 that bear burdens. Now, remember, Solomon's kingdom is a figure for Yahushua. If you really have ears to hear, Solomon is indeed Yahushua. Right? So Solomon had 70,000 that bear burdens and 80 hewers in the mountains, beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,300, which ruled over the people that wrought in the work. And the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and huge stones to lay the foundation of the house. So they had to dig up these stones, man, cut them and make them the way so they could build the walls and the foundation of the house. That's what Isaiah chapter 60 is talking about. When it says they're going to build up the walls, they're going to have to dig up the stones to make the walls. You're going to have to dig up costly stones. Read about beautiful stones about the kingdom, and we'll touch on that. Chrysoprases, right? You read about all types of streets of pure gold. They're going to have to dig these things up, man. It's not just going to, you can't just order it, man. They're going to be sweating with a pickaxe and a shovel, digging up these stones to build up the kingdom. So no, the kingdom will not just fall out of the air. That's what they show you in Christianity. Oh, look at the holy city coming down. Right? That's not what it's talking about. Right? And we're going to go back to this and explain it. Right? We're going to go back to it and explain it. So when John said, I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, he's really speaking about the people. What people? The elect. John saw the elect coming down from God out of heaven. All right? That's what he saw. We are also a city. We are New Jerusalem, right? And we're going to come down from heaven. See, the Lord likens us into various things. He likens us into a bride, right? The Lord likens us into a temple. The Lord likens us even to a city that we're reading about. When you read Revelation 21, it's more of a symbolic understanding of us as a people being described as a city. Okay? Now, let's actually go into this, us being that city. Let's go to Matthew. We read in first in Luke, it says the kingdom of the Most High is within you. Here's the classic, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 14. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. So we're likened unto the light of the world, and we're likened unto an exalted city that is set on a hill. The people, the elect, are a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. We are likened all throughout the Bible as a city. All right, let's actually go to another one. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 52 and 1. That's why precept must be upon precept. If you were just at the Jehovah Witness temple or at these Christian churches and you read that, you would have actually thought a city was going to come down out the sky, right? With a support beam and a construction site. And no, man, we are that city. Isaiah 52 and verse 1. Awake, awake. Put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem. The holy city From henceforth there shall no more come unto thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. So can an actual city put on beautiful garments? No, that's impossible and madness. But who can put on beautiful garments? Men of God, the daughters of Zion, right? Ancient men and young children who have repented and have awakened to the knowledge of the Most High God. We are that holy city. Let's read more about it. Verse 2. Shake thyself from the dust. Arise and sit down. Meaning get up, get all of that sins off of you, man. All of that dust and confusion and you being from a lower state. Shake that dust off of you, man. Get up and sit on your throne. Get off of crack, dope, sitting in the alley, hand in your fist. Arise and sit on your throne where you belong. O Jerusalem, loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Meaning break free from the mental and spiritual and physical slavery that we are in. The point is, the Lord calls us, O Jerusalem, the holy city. This is the same holy city that John saw, right? New Jerusalem, the holy city, right? Let's get another precept. Let's go to Philippians, right? Chapter 3 and 20. So we're going to get out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses that the city is the people and not a building constructed by walls. Philippians chapter 3 and 20. For our conversation is in heaven, for whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Now, this word conversation is not talking about an exchange of words. That's why you have to go into the Greek. If you don't go into the Greek, you'll start celebrating Easter in Acts 12 and 4. If you don't go into the Greek, you'll never understand John 1 and 1, right? If you don't go into the Hebrew, you won't understand Genesis 1 and 26 on down, or precepts in Isaiah that go into the Hebrew. You have to know the foundation, etymology, and these languages, right? So here's that word for conversation, because Philippians 3 and 20 says, for our conversation is in heaven. Here's the word, right?
Strong's G 4175, palituma. Palituma.
And it reads, the administration of civil affairs or of a commonwealth, right? The constitution of a commonwealth, form of government, and the laws by which it is administered. A state, the commonwealth of citizens. So when it says our conversation is in heaven, it means our citizenship is in heaven, right? We belong to New Jerusalem. We're not citizens of the earth. We're not of this world. Yahushua said, I am from above. You are from beneath. In John the 8th chapter. We're citizens of heaven, of New Jerusalem. We are the stones. We are the walls. Yahushua is the cornerstone. Our citizenship is not in America, man. And we don't need a passport to be in New Jerusalem. We're there in the spirit. Right? I tell you that in Hebrews 11th chapter. It's within us, man. We're part of that commonwealth. Hebrews chapter 11 and 20. Let's see. Let's go to Hebrews. I believe I had that precept written down. 11 and 22. I might have read past it. No, that's not what I want. Salaki, bear with me. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, Salaki, I want to get this precept. Right? It's actually Hebrews 12 and 23. I'm not sure why I had that, right? But Salaki, Hebrews 12 and 23. I'll start at 22. It reads, but ye are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels. So what does this mean? Well, when you read this chapter, you had the law that was given on Mount Zion. It's like you're on Mount Sinai, where you had the law of Moses established. And then you have our people coming to Mount Zion. Mount Zion is where we receive the faith of Yahushua, where we receive the testimony of Yahushua, where we receive his sacrifice. But yea, who's the yea? You, myself, those that believe. No longer are we going to go to Mount Sinai to receive tables of stone. That those days are beyond us. Now we're in Mount Zion. You may say, well, I've never been in Mount Zion, right? I've only been in DC or LA. Well, brother, you're there in the spirit. You see that? You're part of that citizenship, that commonwealth. But ye are coming to Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God. So we are that city that is set on a hill. What is this city called? The heavenly Jerusalem, because we are from above, spiritually, right? And to an innumerable company of angels. So never forget that we are the new Jerusalem, the heavenly Jerusalem, the holy city that John actually saw prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, when it says bride, we're likening to a bride as well. Remember, Yahushua, he's the groom, the bridegroom, rather, right? And we are the woman. This whole thing is about a marriage. And there was no greater way for John to describe us in our glory other than a bride that is adorned in beauty for her husband. Because you know how a woman to go all out on her marriage day, man. So much so where if things don't go their way, they call them bridezillas. Everything has to be perfect. You got certain brides that'll walk down and a husband, he'll start crying, man. He could be the biggest, strongest man on the earth in the land of the living, but he'll see the beauty of his bride walking down the aisle, he'll start crying, man. You know? And we went to a wedding, man. We went to the Officer Kabash, right? Had a wedding in Detroit a few years ago, man. That was a beautiful wedding. Brothers kind of shed a tear or two, man. You know? It was a beautiful thing. It was a big deal, man. So a bride adorned for her husband is the exact same glory as that people coming down. Now let's prove we're that bride, right? That's something that we don't have to do an in-depth breakdown on, right? We'll get a few precepts. Let's go to Isaiah 61, right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 61 and 10. It reads, I will greatly rejoice in Yahweh. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. So we are the bride adorning ourselves with jewels. That's why you see all these precious stones, right? Like I brought out gold and amethyst and beryl and chrysoprasus, because the city is likened unto a bride with precious stones or precious jewels. All right, let's lock here. All right, let's get another precept. Right, let's go to the book of, like I said, that's some precepts I want to get into. Let's go to John. Actually, let's go to Revelation. Right, Revelation chapter 19 and verse 7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. Who's the Lamb? Yahushua. Who's the wife? The elect of Israel. How are we making ourselves ready? By putting on our garments and our precious stones and jewels. And to her it was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. You see that? So we're putting on our stones. We're putting on our garments. We're that bride ready for the big day, man. And this is an arranged marriage. We don't have a say-so in our husband, who our husband is, right? The Heavenly Father set this up. And Yahushua didn't have a say-so on who his wife would be. Just like the Lord brought Eve unto Adam, brought Rebekah unto Isaac. The Lord brought Sarah unto Tobias. The Lord has brought the nation of Israel unto Yahushua for a wedding, right? A bride. John chapter 3 and verse 29. We'll get one more precept on that. He that hath the bride is the bridegroom. This John the Baptist speaking. But the friend of the bridegroom, which standeth and heareth him, rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled. So he that hath the bride is the bridegroom. John the Baptist is the friend of the bridegroom. All right. So this is a big deal all throughout the Bible, us being a bride adorned for her husband with precious stones and jewels and beautiful garments. That's the similitude right there. The Lord compares a bride with precious stones and garments to a city with precious stones and beauty. All right, let's read on. Revelation 21:3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and the Most High himself shall be with them and be their God. And the Most High shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Yeah, death, sorrow, pain, crying, those are part of the former things that we read in Isaiah that shall not be remembered, right? So you're not going to be crying in the kingdom. You're not going to die. You're not going to have depression and sorrow and stress, anxiety and worries in the world to come, right? Those things are going to pass away, just like the so-called white man and his kingdom is going to pass away, right? Those things are going to pass away the same way that the dodo bird is no longer here, or with the ancient saber-tooth tiger, or the factories and nuclear power plants, and all of those things have a timeline and an expiration date. But we as a people, and the Lord said our days are innumerable, right? Those things are going to pass away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. Yeah, Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet, and Omega is the last. So it's the same thing as saying I'm the first and the last. In the Hebrew, that would be the Ah and the Tha. Or you have Abba, Gada, Hawaza, Hataya, Kalamana, Sai, Ipa, Tazakwa, Washatha. Those are your Hebrew characters, right? So in the Hebrew, it would say I'm the Ah and the Tha. In the English, I'm the A and the Z, or I'm the first and the last. In the Greek, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, right? And when it says it is done, this ties back up into Revelation, the 16th chapter. What is done, right? When it says it is done, let's go to Revelation chapter 16, right? Revelation chapter 16 and verse 17. It reads, and the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, it is done. What is done? The mystery of the Most High being complete, the destruction of the other nations, the end of this world, the salvation of our God. It is done. It's a wrap. The movie is over. It's finished. That's what this angel or the Lord said unto him. It is done. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So these are the people that's not going to make it. Fearful meaning you fear what's to come. I don't know if I'm gonna survive in Jacob's trouble. I don't know if I'm gonna be a pilgrim on the earth, or is the Lord gonna feed me with a raven? I don't know. Then you just drop dead. The Lord has no time and place for a doubtful man. There's no placing for that type of individual in the world to come. The Lord said, perfect love casteth out fear. Faith casteth out fear. Fear is nothing else but the betraying of reasoning, which secured offered, paraphrasing, right? or the betraying of the succors which reason offereth. That's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17 and 12. Which means what in plain terms? Fear is when your mind plays tricks on you. It makes you forget that Yahweh Shem Shai created the thing or person that you do fear. That's all fear is. When you forget that the Most High has created what you fear or who you fear. Because why would you really fear the creation of the Most High and not fear the Creator? So your mind has to be channeled and tuned in into that understanding. And an unbeliever, they're not going to make it. Right? I don't really know if the Most High really is real. I don't know if he exists or not. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. No, man. And the abominable. The abominable is the wicked. Rather, this person has committed adultery. Rather, this person is still eating unclean foods. Rather, this person still hates their brother. Right? And murderers. That's just outright first degree, second degree, third degree. Hatred to your brother is even murder. Right? And whoremongers, those are men that are just willfully having sex with women, making a gain out of it, and not marrying those women. And sorcerers. Sorcery is witchcraft. It could be manipulation, right? It could be beguiling someone, enticement, actual potions, warlocks, wizards, tarot cards, familiar spirits, and charmers and enchanters. That's sorcery. And idolaters. We know idolatry is the worship of another god. And that idolatry, it could be Buddha, it could be your so-called Allah, it could be your so-called white Jesus, right? You can worship money. We always go into. You can worship your job. You can put your job before the Most High. You can put money before the Most High. You can put your women before the Most High. You can put you before the Most High. Relaxation before the Most High. You can put a lot of stuff, man, before God and make that your idol and serve that. And all liars. That means anybody that's not of the truth. Because if you're not of the truth, you are a liar. If you're not keeping the law, you are a liar. Right? If you don't believe in Yahweh Shai, you are a liar. Yahweh Shai is the way, the truth, and the life. If you accept Yahweh Shai, you accept the truth. If you deny Yahweh Shai, you are a liar. I mean, that lie is not talking about, oh, I stole a cookie from the cookie jar. Then you ask him, say, well, I didn't do it. I was. That's not that. That's a lie. But this is deeper than that. All right. Shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now, this lake that burns with fire and brimstone is not talking about an actual place called hell. Right? Let's pull up actual place. Right? We'll type this in hell. Actual place called hell, right? Look at this. A place called hell. The awful reality of hell. Oh boy, either go to heaven or you go to hell. Right? Look at this. There's a special place in hell for women who don't. There's no special places in hell. People always say there's a special place in hell for you. There's a special place in hell for child molesters. There's a special place in hell for pedophiles. There's a special place in hell for men that kill babies. There ain't no special place. Hell is not a secret place underground where the wicked are cast into. Right? Hell in Revelation, the 21st chapter, or the lake of fire, rather, is speaking about the destruction and the aftermath and the visual fire that John saw that came with the intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what it's talking about. Right? Now, we may do a whole in-depth breakdown on hell, but that's what this lake of fire is going into. Right? Remember, when Yahweh Shah returns, he said, let me get this in Luke chapter 12. Right? Let's go to St. Luke chapter 12 and verse, I believe I want 49. It reads, I am come to send fire on the earth. And what will I, if it be already kindled? So the Lord is coming to put a fire on the earth. Right? So there's not a fire already under the earth. Right? There's not a fire underneath the ground constantly burning, because when Yahweh Shah returns, he's coming with fire. He's coming to put a fire on the earth, not under the earth. He said, and what will I if it be already kindled? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 66. Right? Isaiah, we have to come out of Christianity, right? Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire. So that lake of fire is a byproduct of the chariot fire or the missiles, or it's like the lasers that come from the chariots and the missiles. And it's going to have Babylon the Great and the earth actually look like a lake of fire. All right? Actually look like a lake of fire. So when John saw it, I mean, how else is he going to describe this? Now, I'm sure there are scientific names for the aftermath of when a bomb hits and that fire spreads around. There has to be, all right? I'm not a scientist, right? I don't study ballistics. I'm not a physicist. But there's a term, and we may look it up. There's a term for the aftermath of where that missile hits the ground, that fire sweeps across and burns everybody up in a certain mile radius. Right, so like it, bear with me. Salakia. Right? Let's see. Let's just look that up, right? What is aftermath of missile? Let's see. Missile. I don't know. Missile fire, right? There's the devastating effect of nuclear weapons. Let's see. Direct radiation. See that? An exploding nuclear weapon instantly vaporizes itself. What was cold solid material microseconds earlier becomes a gas hotter than the sun's 15 million degree core. This hot gas radiates its energy in the form of X-rays, which heat surrounding air. A fireball of superheated air forms and grows rapidly. 10 seconds later, after a 1 megaton explosion, the fireball is a mile in diameter. The fireball glows visibly from its own heat. That's what John saw. Now, does John know about a megaton? Is John going to write down about a superheated fireball that was made from hot gas and X-rays? John doesn't know that. So why would you expect John to write that down? Well, he should have wrote it down. He should have said fireball and megaton, and I would have known. I'm upset that he didn't. Well, look, that's why the Bible ain't for everybody. That's why Christians, they say, wow, there's an actual place. They mix Greek mythology, right? It all goes back to Greek mythology, Hades, and the concept of hell. But John saw otherwise. So visibly, that the early stages of a 1 megaton fireball are many times brighter than the sun, even at a distance of 50 miles. So he saw that fireball, but it looked like a lake of fire, right? As it spread across the mile radius and miles. And it's going to be many bombs to hit America. So it's going to look like an actual lake of fire. See, one fireball spreading in a mile radius don't look like a lake. But if you got millions of them that hit, it's going to look like a lake of fire. Besides light, the glowing fireball radiates heat. All right? It radiates heat. So this lake of fire is a byproduct of the missiles hitting the earth. All right, let's read on. And like I said, we may do a whole nother in-depth breakdown on hell because I don't want to, spend 3 hours going into, it's like you're going into hell. Right? We want to kind of make it plain. Revelation 21 and verse 9. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. right? So now we're going to see the lamb's wife, the bride. But the bride is about to be described with the characteristics of a city. All right. Let me say that again. The bride is about to be described with the same characteristics of a city. Sometimes the bride is described with likened to a tree with precious fruit and a green leaf and deep roots surrounded by living waters. Sometimes we're described like that, right? Like a mustard seed that grows when every fowl of the air and beast of the field dwells under our shadow, right? We're described in many ways, but Revelation 21 is a little bit different because now we as a people, if we're part of that elect, we are now about to be described as a city, right? Coming down from heaven. Verse 10. This is a similitude, a metaphor, an allegory. Let's flip the definition of an allegory. Okay, an allegory. A story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. Hold on, let's go back. Typically a moral or political one. Also a parable, analogy, metaphor. An analogy is a comparison between two things, right? A comparison between two things. The comparison for the last time is a city compared to a bride or a lamb's wife. Hey, when you read Song of Solomon, there's a lot of comparisons between wisdom and us and other features, right? Let's prove that. Let's go to Song of Solomon. Read us the 4th chapter, right? This is Song of Solomon, chapter 4. Right, let's read how we're compared. 4:1. Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead. So our hair is described like a flock of goats. Our eyes are pure, described like dove's eyes. Verse 2. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn. Those pearly whites, which came up from washing, whereof everyone beareth twins, and none is barren among them. That's that beautiful, radiant smile. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet, and thy speech is comely. Thy temples are like a piece of pomegranate within thy locks. Thy neck is like the Tower of David. So our neck is compared to a building, a structure. Build it for an armory wherein there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields and mighty men. So there are comparisons of the bride all throughout the Bible, not just in Revelation 21. Song of Solomon describes our neck like a building or a tower, our hair like the flock of goats, our eyes like dove eyes, right? There's nothing new. Revelation 21 is just taking it up a notch, and instead of using animals like a goat or a dove, it's just going to use a city, right? Salakia. Right, this is verse 10. And he carried me away and the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending from God. It's like descending out of heaven from the Most High, right? So he's actually going to describe it now in great detail, right? Salakia. Verse 11. It reads, first, Salakia, let me get this real quick. Right, I had this precept I want to get into. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 5. All right, let's go to Ephesians, the 5th chapter. About us being from Revelation 21. We said, I will show thee the bride, the lamb's wife. Right, let me get a precept for that, just so brothers can have that in the arsenal. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 31. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Hamashiach and the church. Right? So the true epitome of marriage is not your grandmother and your grandfather, right? It's not some celebrity couple. The true essence of marriage and the most, I guess, the highest level, for lack of better terms, is the marriage between Yahweh Shai and the bride, Yahweh Shai and the church. So if you want your marriage to be successful, your marriage should be patterned after the relationship between Yahweh Shai and the church. The wife should move in the spirit of the church, right? And the husband should move in the spirit of Yahweh Shai. And if those two dynamics are played out on a day-to-day basis, then you'll find your marriage being more successful than not and faring well in terms of mirth, in terms of gladness, and in terms of agreement and order, right? But if you become the church and your wife is Yahweh Shai, then that's confusion and backwardsness, man, right? This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Mashiach and the church. So again, a wedding or a man and his wife is Yahweh Shai and the church. All right, let's go back to Revelation 21 and 10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. Right? Let's get a quick precept on that. Let's go to Revelation 22. And actually, we're going to hold that. We're going to hold that. Right? And this is not an actual city. Right? Remember, this is not an actual city. It's talking about us as a people. Right? And this is how you know it's not an actual city. Matter of fact, I'm going to read Revelation 22. And it shows that it can't be talking about an actual city. Right? Because check this out. This Revelation 22 and 5. Right? Speaking about the holy city. And there should be no night there. And they need no candle, neither the light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Now, when it says there should be no night there, and no need of a candle, neither the light of the sun, and the new city, that's all spiritual. Right? Meaning we as a people, we won't experience night anymore. Night is symbolic for darkness, disorder, confusion, evil. That's what the night represents. But again, it's the Lord is likening it to a city. So there's not going to be any more nighttime in the city. Neither do we need a candle. We don't need light. Right? The Lord is the light. We're not going to walk around with a Bible in our hand and Apocrypha in our hand. All right? Neither the light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Right? Now, you may say, well, no, that's literal. It's not going to be a literal nighttime. Well, what kind of sense does it make not to have any night nor any sun? What kind of city has no sunlight or no nighttime? That's madness. Remember, the sun and the moon endure forever. Right? The sun and the moon endure forever. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And that Revelation 22 further adds that it's not an actual city. Right? Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 5. Right? It reads, the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. So the sun has a never-ending cycle. There will never be a day when the sun is no longer existing, or there's no longer nighttime, or no longer moons. Right? Let's go to Genesis chapter 8. Right? Genesis chapter 8. Only the so-called white man believes that there won't be another sun. Right? Or the sun may explode in 10,000 years. Or the moon may explode. The sun may crash into the moon. That's white man double talk, right? Genesis 8 and 22. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. That cuts that plain. As long as the earth is here, day and night will never cease, which means the sun and the moon will always be here because they are the lights that dictate the sun and the day and the night, right? This is the book of Revelation. It's like in Genesis chapter 1 and 16. And the Most High made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So if day and night doesn't cease, it means the sun and the moon will not cease. They will be forever. Let's get one more on that. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 31. The sun is a greater light to rule the day. The moon is a lesser night to rule the night. The sun is likened unto a man that runs a race in a masculine sense, and the moon is likened unto a woman, right? And that shows order too, because the sun is the man and he's the larger light, and the moon is feminine and it's a smaller light. All right, so let's go, but they work together. Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 35. Thus said the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, meaning if the sun stops working and the moon and the day and the night is no longer here, those are the ordinances. If those ordinances depart from before me, said the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Right? So if the sun and the moon are no longer here, and day and night is no longer here, that means we as a people, we are also no longer here. Right? So when you read Revelation 21 and 22, and it says there should be no night there, it's not literal no night. We just covered that. The nighttime is symbolic for darkness, confusion. All right? That's what the night represents. Let's prove that. Let's go to Job 24. Right? Job chapter 24 and verse 14. The murderer, right, which is the so-called white man, rising with the light, killeth the poor and needy, and in the night is as a thief. So he takes away the light from the earth and covers the earth with darkness and puts on a different identity like white man, Caucasian, Jesus, Anglo-Saxon, Dutch, German, right? And he becomes a thief. The eye also, the adulterer, waited for the twilight. So they wait for the nighttime, saying, no eye shall see me, and disguiseth his face. In the dark they dig through houses. So they rob lands, heritages, kingdoms, which they have marked for themselves in the daytime. They know not the light. Certain people love the night. They don't love the light. They love the night. For the morning is to them even as the shadow of death. If one know them, they are in the terrors of the shadow of death. So they prosper in the nighttime because when that sun come up, it reveals who they really are. And they're terrified when that light is put on them, right? So Revelation 22, no night there, meaning no confusion, no darkness. And it says no candle or neither light of the sun. It means that we don't need to be, what it's saying is we as a people aren't going to operate off of the understanding that we have in this world. Right now, we have the light of the sun. The light of the sun is the law. The Lord said in Proverbs 6 and 23, for the commandment is a lamp and the law is light. So when it says the sun, don't really think about a fireball, just think about light. How do we get our source of light now? Because the sun is the source of light. Our source of light now is the law, the Bible, the scriptures. We're not going to need the scriptures and that source of light. Our light is going to come internally because we're going to have the laws in our inward parts. That's why it says the Lord God giveth them light. The Lord's going to put that light in our mind. He's going to put that light in our spirit. We don't need an alternative source of light. The Most High is going to make us automatically righteous. So again, in this holy city, remember, it's all a metaphor, right? It's not literal. And that's why the Jehovah's Witness, the Christians, they stumble, right? Revelation 21 again, about this city, right? And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from the Most High, having the glory of the Most High. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. See if we can look up a jasper stone. Well, that's not a stone that the average Negro or Hispanic man or a Native American man knows, right? All we know is platinum, gold, and silver, and silverware, right? Here's jasper stone. So jasper stone in Revelation 21, it says our light is going to be like unto a jasper stone, but clear as crystal, a clear jasper stone. Right now, the jasper stone is brown. The jasper stone is also used to show Yahweh Shai's skin complexion, right? For lack of better terms. It's also used to describe Yahweh Shai's complexion. This is Revelation chapter 4 and verse 2. Remember, we're reading about a city, all right? And it has city-like words and city-like attributes and characteristics, but it's really speaking about a nation of people. Revelation 4 and 2. And immediately I was in the spirit. And behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look like a jasper. It's like it was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, and sight like unto an emerald. So that's the Most High sitting on that throne, likened unto a jasper. We as a people, we're going to have that same spirit. We have that same glory of God, right? And our light is like the stone, like unto a jasper stone. So the light and glory of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shah is going to be shining through us. We're going to emit that light that is which comes from the Most High, who is likened unto a jasper stone. And that light is going to be clear as crystal. When something is clear, it has no defects, no spots, no blemishes. Our light is clear as crystal. If you're getting light from the so-called white man, it's not clear. You understand? He's giving you philosophies. He's giving you politics. He's giving you sin. It's not clear. You can't visibly see the truth. There's a lot of dark spots and things hindering you from having perfect vision. But our light is going to be so bright and radiant, it's going to be clear as crystal. Right? Again, when something is clear, it's symbolic for perfection. Let's go to Song of Solomon. Chapter 6. The Lord said, our light is like the sun and the moon. Well, I believe that's in Song of Solomon, chapter 6. And I've had that precept written down. Let's see. Bear with me. Song of Solomon kind of has 6 and 10. It reads, who is she? This is the bride. Same thing in Revelation. Who is she that looketh forth as the morning? That's that light when the sun comes up. Fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners. So this also describes us. This is saying the same thing as Revelation 21, it's just different words. We're going to have that bright glow, we're going to be clear as the sun, without spot, without blemish, with no wrinkle, unpolluted, all white, clear as the sun, looking forth as the morning. Revelation says, hey, look, we're half a light like unto a stone most precious, clear as crystal, even like a jasper stone. It's saying the exact same thing. Let's go to Job about being clear. Right? Job chapter 11 and let's start at verse 17. I'm going to start at 14. If iniquity be in thine hand, put it far away, and let not wickedness dwell in thy tabernacle. If you're in sin, if you have works of evil, repent. Don't let sin dwell in your body. For then shalt thou lift up thy face without spot. Yea, thou should be steadfast and shall not fear. Now, if you got a window and it got spots on it, it's not clear. right? You spray that Windex on it, you wipe it down, and it becomes clear, right? The Lord says, if you repent, your face will be without spot. There will be no sins or defilements on you. Because thou shalt forget thy misery and remember it as waters that pass away. And thine age shall be clearer than the noonday. Like Song of Solomon said, clear as the sun. At noonday, there's no clouds, right? It's just straight, bright light out there. Perfection, right? Clouds also symbolize sin. When you read Isaiah 43:25, the Lord said, as a cloud, he has blotted out your sins. So when there's no clouds, it means no sins. There's a lot of similitudes in the Bible, a lot of poetry and metaphors, you know. And thine age shall be clearer than the noonday. Thou shalt shine forth, thou shalt be as the morning. We just read that in Song of Solomon. Saying the same thing, right? We're going to be without spot and without blemish, clear as crystal. Let's look up a crystal stone. Remember, we're like a bride with precious stones, right? No, we're not saying get in the crystals. You got, brother, well, do I get in the crystals? Are you telling me to? No. See, this is clear as crystal. You see that? So let's go back to this. Let's go back to Revelation. Revelation 21:12. It reads, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. You see that? So the kingdom of heaven, or the city that you see, it says it had a wall great and high and had 12 gates. And at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Now walls, gates, stones are also likened unto people, right? When you read Jeremiah 14:2, it says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, they are blackened to the ground. The gates are symbolic for leadership, right? You have 12 angels. This links up to Hebrews chapter 12 and 23, an innumerable company of angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Now, you'll have these gates. When you read Ezekiel, the 48th chapter, you read about 12 actual gates, right? And on the east 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. So you have 12 gates, one for each of the tribes. So John is actually giving you some insight about what's written in Ezekiel, but John is writing it in a poetic fashion. Ezekiel is more of a literal fashion, right? John is more so of a spiritual fashion. So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 48, and let's read verse 31. Ezekiel chapter 48 and 31. See that? The city gates. And these are the goings out of the city on the north side, 4,500 measures. And the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel. 3 gates northward, 1 gate of Reuben, 1 gate of Judah, 1 gate of Levi. So if you want to know about those 12 gates in Revelation, go back to Ezekiel chapter 48 and you'll read about these 12 tribes. North side, they call uptown, right? Reuben, Judah, and Levi, they're going to share a gate. So they're going to dwell in that same area. And at the east side, 4,500 and 3 gates, 1 gate of Joseph, 1 gate of Benjamin, and 1 gate of Dan. Believe it or not, Dan does indeed have a gate allotted amongst the tribes. Joseph is Ephraim and Manasseh. They're going to walk through the same gate. 1 gate of Benjamin and 1 gate of Dan. And at the south side, 4,500 measures. It's like it 4,500 measures and 3 gates. 1 gate of Simeon, 1 gate of Issachar, 1 gate of Zebulun. And at the west side, 4,500 with their 3 gates. 1 gate of Gad, 1 gate of Asher, 1 gate of Naphtali. Right? 1 gate of Naphtali. So these are your 12 gates you read about in Revelation. named after the 12 tribes, which are going to be the princes and kings of the earth, the gates of the earth, the rulerships of the earth, the powers of the earth, right? And if you're not part of those 12 gates, you're not getting in, right? Unless, I mean, you're a slave. You're going to be a slave, but you're not going to be a partaker of the promises that Yahweh Bashim Shai has in store for us, man. You're not going to be a partaker of immortality. You're not going to be a partaker of dominion and rulership, man. See, John saw us being described as a city with 12 gates, right? Symbolizing the rulership of the 12 tribes and 12 angels, right? Our complete dominance and protection. And our names on that, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel, right? Now, when you have a city or stones and you etch a name in it, it means that these people own it. They possess it, like a city. If you see a building, right? Let's see if we can find a building with someone's name etched in it. Building with name carved. I guess that's the word I want to use. Carved in it, right? If you see like an old church or an old building, it'll have whoever owns that building, their name kind of etched in it. Hold on, that's not what I want. Let's see. See, now it may be hard to find. Let's see, building erected, right? They may say erected in 1935 or 1922, right? It's kind of hard to find now, right? Let's see, names erected on old buildings, right? If you know what I'm talking about, you've seen it, right? I may have a hard time finding it now, but they would actually etch names inside of buildings, right? Back in the ancient times. Let's see. And it'll say it on one of these stones. Some say it on the door. It'll say erected by John Smith in 1920. Okay, let me see if I can find one. If I can't find one, then you know, it is what it is. But if you've seen it, you've seen it. They'll have pillars and stones, gates, and then they have names on there for who this belongs to and who created it. Right? Let's see. Let me try one more thing. Let's type in year of erection. Well, I don't want to type that in. That's going to lead to madness. Year of building etched in stone. Okay, that's all right. Well, we can't find it, right? We can't. Oh, you see this one right here has 2015, right? Some buildings, it could be like a library, or it could be something else, right? Now I can't find it, but if I find it, I'll pull it up, right? If I find it, I'll pull it up, and you'll be able to see old building with year. Let's see, in stone. Right? So just when you want to find something, you can't find it. Right? But that's okay. But that's what Revelation chapter 21 is going into. With the names written on the stones or the name written on the gates. All right? It happens all the time. Verse 14. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So the walls of our city have 12 foundations, because the foundation of the 12 tribes are the 12 apostles. It doesn't mean that the actual city has large, big stones. Okay, one stone named after Peter. There's another big stone. The heathen have to build it, and there's a stone that they put there, and it's called John. And there's another stone that they carve out of wood, and they shake the dust off it, and it says James. And they take all these stones, they find another stone, they dig it in the dirt, they pick it up, and it says Andrew. And they take all these stones, and they say, and they lay the foundation of the kingdom of heaven. No! It means we as a people, the city, our foundation are the 12 apostles. Now, really, it starts with the cornerstone. The cornerstone is Hamashiach Yahushua. This is Psalm chapter 118 and 22. The stone which the builders refuse, it's become the headstone of the corner. So the first principal stone for our city is Yahushua. Right? That's plain. He is the beginning and the end. Let's go to Matthew chapter 21 and 41. Right? Let's read that. It reads, they say unto him, he will miserably destroy those wicked men, and will let out his vineyard unto other husbandmen, which shall render him the fruits and their seasons. Yahushua saith unto them, did they never read in the scriptures? The stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner. This is Yahweh's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. So who's the stone? Yahushua. They were rejected by the builders, the wicked leaders of our people. The same stone that they rejected, Yahushua used it as a foundation. Right? Talmida said buildings with founder plaques. Try this search. Let me try that one. Right? Let's see. Building with founder. Right? Let's try that one. All right, that might be a little bit better. See that? There you go. So the water for that. See that? Ross and Getty building circa 1810. So they'll have that. Sometimes it's etched in stone. That's what I was looking for, but this is also helpful as well. So the water for that. And it has the year, right? Going back to the point that when we read in Revelation 21, that the names on the gates, it's really going into who owns it, who possesses it. Who does this city belong to? Who does the kingdom of heaven belong to? And then it says his name's written on the 12 foundations, right? So one says Peter, John, James, but it's all symbolic for how a city is actually built. That's how cities were built in the ancient world. Even if you look at a sidewalk, you have people, when they first start making a sidewalk, somebody try to carve their name in there, man. They may take a stick or take some type of tool and they'll write down James, right? Or they'll write down their name. So as long as that sidewalk is there, the creator of that sidewalk is credited because their name is etched in there and engraved in there forever. So us being a city, our chief cornerstone and creator is Yahushua, right? Or Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And then there are other stones which are the foundation of us, which are the apostles and prophets. Let's get that in Ephesians. Right? Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 19. Right? Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 19. Now therefore, ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of the Most High. So Israelite foreigners are now grafted in. But here's the point in verse 20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahushua Hamashiach himself being the chief cornerstone. So you can't get around that. This is saying the exact same thing. We're likened to a city, and our foundation is Peter, John, James, Andrew, Thomas, Bartholomew, Nathaniel, Matthew, Simon, James, Judas, etc. Right? They're the foundation. And then you have the prophets. Right? You have Noah, you have Enoch, you have Elijah, you have Jeremiah, Isaiah, Haggai, Zechariah, Obadiah, etc. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have the wisdom and understanding that the Most High gave those men. They're the foundation. So any city has a foundation. If you know architecture or buildings, you know that the foundation of the city is the beginning of it. The building foundation. Go to a construction site. If you deal with refractory work, stone masonry, architecture, the foundation supports everything else on top of that. The foundation supports the gates. The gates will have no support unless there was a foundation underneath. So the 12 tribes of Israel, those who are going to enter into the kingdom, that are partakers of the kingdom, they have no place there unless there's a foundation laid out. Right? Let's read this again. So like Ephesians 2:20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahushua HaMashiach himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom, verse 21, all the building fitly framed together groweth into an holy temple in the Lord. So we're likened unto a holy temple, and we're likened unto a holy city. All right, with a foundation. This is what Revelation 21 is talking about. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the 12 apostles of the Lamb. All right, the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Because the apostles are the foundation of the church. There's something called the apostles' doctrine in Acts 2. Right? Let's get more proof on that. This is Acts chapter 2 and verse 42. And they, meaning the disciples, continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread and in prayers. So it's Yahushua said, my doctrine is not my own. And John 7. That doctrine he gave to the apostles. So everything that you teach, it starts with the apostles. The doctrine of repentance, who the Israelites are, salvation, judgment, prophecy, everything you know and understand of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, regardless of your elder, teacher, deacon, bishop, whatever, it has started with the apostles. That's the apostles' doctrine. That's why they are the foundation of the church, because the knowledge of repentance started with them as they went and traveled throughout the known world at that time to reconcile the saints back to the living God. That's why it's important to go into who those 12 apostles actually are, right? Let's actually go into the 12 apostles. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10. Let's read about the 12 apostles, or 12 foundations of the Lamb. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 1. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Now remember, Judas, he got replaced by Mattathias in Acts, the first chapter, right? So Judas was put on the back burner, right? Or I don't even want to use that. Killed himself, man, right? And Mattathias actually replaced him. Those are the 12 apostles of the Lamb. That's the foundation of a city. So we can look up a foundation of city being built. Or we can look up a house, right? See that they're laying the foundation. It all starts with this. It all starts with laying the foundation. The 12 apostles have laid the foundation of the city. And you see these pillars and these stones, these are the 12 apostles. And on top of this, you'll have houses. You may have an apartment complex. You may have a gas station. You may have a grocery store, right? You may have a 7-Eleven or CVS or Walgreens, but it all starts with the foundation, right? You understand. Revelation chapter 21 and verse 15. All right, let me get another precept with us being a wall and a city and the foundation. Let's go to Song of Solomon chapter 8 and 10. All right, let's get maybe one or two more in that. This is Song of Solomon chapter 8 and verse 8. We have a little sister, and she hath no breast. What shall we do for our sister and the day when she shall be spoken for? Right? We have a little sister, and she hath no breast. What this is saying is, this is the people in the truth speaking about the people of the world. Our people in the world don't have any breasts. They're not mature. They're not raised up in the truth. They don't have the understanding of God. They don't know the laws. They don't know the commandments. So in the day that she shall be spoken for, it's the day that Yahweh returns, because Yahweh is coming to take a bride. The Lord is not coming back to take a woman with no breasts, right? So this is not carnal. This is not for. That's why it's not for the carnal man. Oh, the Lord said he like. No, it's all hip talk. The Lord is coming back to save a mature bride and a knowledge of God. So when it says, what shall we do for our sister and the day when she shall be spoken for? I mean, how are we going to help her get ready for the marriage? How are we going to build her up for the day of the wedding? If she be a wall. So we're likening it to walls, gates, foundations. If she be a wall, we will build upon her a palace of silver. And if she be a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. We could be doors in the Bible. We're likening it to stones. We're likening it to walls. We're likening it to palaces. So what it's saying is we're going to build her up. Verse 10. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. So the elect is saying, I am mature. I am grown. I can eat the meat, the bread. My breasts are like towers. The Lord wants a mature woman. He doesn't want a babe, right? So we're, again, understand how Revelation 21 is using city terms of stones and walls and doors and gates. And it's not just in Revelation, it's all throughout the Bible. Here's a key example. Straight up and down, I am a wall, right? Hey, I am a wall. You are a wall. You are the Lord is the door, right? Let's get that in John chapter 10. He is the door. Paul said, I am a wise master builder, right? This is the book of John chapter 10 and verse 9. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved and shall go in and out and find pasture. Yahweh is the cornerstone. Yahweh is the door. The apostles are the foundations of this city. The 12 tribes are the 12 gates. You understand? The elect men are likened unto walls, towers, right? We're also likened unto lively stones. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2, right, and 4. 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4. To whom coming, as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of the Most High and precious. So Yahweh is a living stone. He makes you alive, right? He makes you come into this truth. Yea, also, as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High by Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. So we are likened unto lively stones. Yahweh Shai is the living stone. He's the one that made us alive. Revelation 21. We'll read 14 one more time. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Verse 15. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. Now, when it says to measure the city, it's not the angel who literally needs to know how many cubic feet it is, how many millimeters. Okay, it has this many centimeters. That's not the spirit of what this is talking about. As you read Revelation 21, keep in your mind that, again, we're going to keep rehearsing and reiterating that we are the city likened unto a bride. Let's go to Revelation 21, because this measuring spirit is not just in Revelation 21, it's also in Revelation 11, and it's used as judgment. When you measure something, you judge it, you make a decision, right? This is Revelation chapter 11 and 1. You decide what you want when you measure something. You decide what you don't want when you measure something. All right. So it's really about a judgment. Revelation chapter 11 and 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. So he was told to measure, meaning who's the elect, right? Who's doing the work? Who's the chosen? Who's the 144,000? Measure the temple. See how many stones we have. How many lively stones? Do we have 143,999? Do we have 5 lively stones? Does this stone have a crack in it? Is this brother on fire? Is this sister falling out? Measure the stones and see what we're working with, right? Even measure the altar and them that worship therein. We're likened to a temple. We're likened to an altar, a city, buildings and doors and walls and gates. Verse 2. But the court which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. So don't measure the outer court. We're not measuring the Gentiles. We're leaving them out. If I want a 12 by 4, it's like if I want a 12-foot 2 by 4, and I get one that's 20 feet, I'm cutting off the excess that I don't want. I'm going to measure how much I don't want, and I'm leaving it out. And I measure what I do want. The Lord wants to measure what he wants, what's acceptable. Everything else don't matter. Outer court don't matter, right? Those are the other nations. Why would I measure something that I don't need, right? Why would I measure the land and the cities of these nations? I'm not dealing with them, huh? Same thing in Revelation 21. Instead of using us as the spirit of a temple and an altar, he's using us as the spirit of the city and gates and the wall. We read that we are walls in Song of Solomon. We read that we are gates. We are the city. So now he's measuring us in the same fashion as he measured us when we were a temple, an altar, and them that worship therein. But now we're a city, gates, and the walls, all saying the same thing. Revelation chapter 21 and 15. And he that talked with me, that's the angel talking to John, had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates and the wall thereof. And the city, right? Let's see how much. Okay, con. Right? And the city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. As the breadth. Salakia. Let me read that again. The city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. Now, why does it say 4 square? This is all hip talk, right? 4 square meaning it's even, right? This is likened to a cube. The length, breadth, and height gives you the volume of any shape, right? Or any item. So that's why a lot of times you'll see when people talk about the kingdom of heaven coming out the sky, they liken it into a cube. Let's type that back in. Kingdom. We'll do holy city, right? Holy city coming down from heaven. All right, let's pull this up. A lot of times you'll see it likened to a cube. See that? Why is it? Because it's the length, the height, and the breadth are all described. So the volume is described of it. Now, is the city going to be an actual cube coming down from heaven? No, that's why we have to get the understanding. We have to get the understanding. So the city lies 4 square, meaning every side is equal. It's all equal. The Lord's ways are equal. Right? Let's get that in Ezekiel chapter 18. Right? It's nothing crooked or perverse about the city. Right? Revelation, it's like Ezekiel chapter 18 and 25. Yet they say, the way of the Lord is not equal. Hear it now, O house of Israel. Is not my way equal? Are not your ways unequal? When something is equal, it's just, it's perfect, it's righteous. When something's unequal, it's out of balance, it's an abomination, it's crooked, it's perverse, it has blemishes in it. The measurement of the city is imperfection. Right? That's why it's 4 square. It's all equal. The length, the height, the breadth. When you go into the time of Solomon, King Solomon built the holiest of holies, and it was a cube form. It was 4 square. It was 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits. The tabernacle, the innermost holiest place, was shaped like unto a cube. The kingdom of heaven is shaped like unto a cube, because we are the holy place. We are that most holy place on the earth. Let's get that in 1 Kings, I believe that's 6. It's all spiritual. It's all hip talk, right? So here's the building of the temple. 1 Kings chapter 6 and 19. And the oracle he prepared in the house within to set there the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. Now check this out. And the oracle and the fourth part was 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in breadth and 20 cubits in the height. That's a smaller version of the cube, right? That perfect 4 square, perfect equality, all right? And he overlaid it with pure gold, and so covered the altar, which was of cedar. So what an oracle was and an ark of the covenant, it was the holiest places in the temple on the earth at the time. We as a city, we are now become that. We are become the holiest place. We are the most holy place. We are that temple. We are the place where the nations are going to come and learn about the Most High God. We are the place where they're going to come and gather and keep and understand the new moons and understand the Sabbath days, right? And understand the Feast of Tabernacles. We have now by default become as a city that holy place. Same thing as the oracle during the time of King Solomon. Okay, let's go back to that. And a city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with a reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length, the breadth, and the height of it are equal. So he measured 12,000 3 times. 3 means emphasis or completion. 12 is a number used in the same chapter as perfection. You got the 12 tribes. You got the 12 gates. You got the 12 angels. You got the 12 apostles, right? You got the 12 stones. You got 12,000 furlongs. So the number 12 is used 3 times, right? 3 is perfection. Just like 6 in Revelation 13 is used 3 times. You got 666. Now you have 12,000 for the height times 12,000 for the width times 12,000 for the breadth. So 3 is completion. And this is what you call what they call a perfect square. All right, let's put that. That's an actual term, right? Or a perfect cube. That's what it's called, a perfect cube. Let's pull this up. A perfect cube is a perfected formula. There's no flaws, no blemishes, no spots, no wrinkles. It's perfect. It's the Most High deals with numbers, believe it or not. The Most High deals with numbers, right? So this measurement is called a perfect cube. You see that? That's why it's 12,000 by 12,000 by 12,000, because that number is used 3 times for emphasis. And if you multiply that number 3 times for emphasis, you get a perfect similitude of the oracle that was there during the time of Solomon. Because we become that perfected equal estate. So it's all a dark saying. Because I mean, really, if 12,000 is over, I believe that's millions of miles. So it's not talking about an actual city coming down as a cube. The Lord is comparing us. He measured us. And one thing about Revelation 11 and Revelation 21, the difference is the measurements are given in Revelation 21. The measurements aren't given in Revelation 11. Our measurements, as the Lord has decided us as a people, he has deemed us equal, perfect. That's why we have those measurements. Those measurements don't mean nothing. They're not just there for no reason. They carry weight, right? It means perfection, support. And again, like I say, even your top scholar now, they call those things perfect cubes. Am I going to go to the in-depth breakdown of a perfect cube? No, but the Most High been had this, man. Don't let Esau come out and tell you we figured out this new formula called a perfect cube. We're going to take this number and multiply it by 3. They don't know that 3 means emphasis or 3 means completion. And they don't understand the spiritual aspect of the perfect cube, right? Just like they don't know what 7 really means or what 6 is going into, you know? That's why, look, if you look up the kingdom of heaven coming down from heaven, they liken it unto a cube. But it's not an actual cube coming down. Surely we understand that by now. Let's go back to this. Right? Let's read it one more time. Revelation chapter 21 and verse 16. And the city, meaning we as a people, lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. Right? So the women, the men, the children, the nation, the beast, everything's equal and in order. We read in Ezekiel 18, are not my ways equal? Another word for equal is just. It's called equity. Balanced. Righteous. Okay, you can throw whatever righteous synonym you want to use, but that's what it's going into. Verse 17. And he measured the wall thereof. Well, let me make sure I didn't have another precept on that. Okay, right, let's read on. Right, that's why this is a dark saying right here. This is dark. This is a stumbling block right here for your modern day Jehovah's Witness, right? Your modern day Christian, right? Because they don't understand how numbers work with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They don't understand the precepts and how the Most High molds them together to provide understanding on us being a city. Right, verse 17. And he measured the wall thereof. Now check this out. I mean, there's further proof that this is spiritual. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is of the angels. So the angels use the same measurement as men. They measured it at 144 cubits. Why 144? Because 144 is a number for the elect. Let's get that. Right? Revelation chapter 14 and verse 3. Let's read it. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 14 and verse 3. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. All right? 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. That's what the measure of the wall is, 144,000 or 144 cubits. Because what is 144? Since we're dealing with numbers, it's 12 times 12. Right? So it's doubled. Doubled is emphasis, right? For lack of better terms. Right? When you double down on something, what does that mean? Right? You say, look, I'm gonna bet $5, right? I'm gonna double down on it. Twice as much. You really mean it. You are fully persuaded that you're gonna win that bet. I double down. So when something's doubled in the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, that's why you have 420 elders, right? Because that's 12 times 2. And that's why you have 144, because it's 12 times 12. That's why you have that length, breadth, and height are equal, because it's 12 times 12 times 12. to give you a perfect cube. This wall is 144 cubits. We read, let's go back to Song of Solomon, that we are likened unto a wall. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Let's read it again. Song of Solomon, chapter 8 and 10. I am a wall. So if we are a wall, we are 144 cubits. The walls of the city are 144 cubits. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. So we are measurements. We're not just a wall that nobody knows. We're a wall that has been measured by Yahweh Bashmi Abashah with the golden reed. Right? It's plain. Let's go back to this. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits. So that he's really talking about the elect. Right? He's really talking about the elect. According to the measure of a man, that is of the angel. Verse 18. And the building of the wall, it's like the building of the wall of it was of jasper. And the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And we covered what it means to be clear, right? What we know, gold is the most precious metal. See how much more I got. I got a few more, right? Verse 19. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. Now we know the foundation is really who? The 12 apostles. But now he's going to liken these 12 foundational stones to 12 actual stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth an emerald. These are the same stones for the most part that the high priest wore. Right? If you look up the stones of the high priest, high priest stones, right? And this ephod. Let's pull this up. Here's the stones. Sardius, right? Exodus 28 and 17. So these stones is what the high priest wore. And thou shalt set it in settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, and topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. And the second row should be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, and a gate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, and onyx, and jasper. They should be set in gold in their enclosing. And here's all the stones. And they got the ancient Hebrew right there. Right? Where Awabah, Shemaiwan, Loya, Yahwadah, right, etc. They have all of the stones. Now, this is why people get the concept that that's my birthstone. Well, I was born in June, I'm a gold, whatever they say, right? Because there's 12 stones. And people also get into that zodiac stuff. Well, I was born in June, I'm a Cancer. And there's 12 signs of the zodiac. And there's 12 birthstones. Because they know that number 12. The number 12 has a spiritual meaning behind it. But people in the world, they have a zeal, but it's not according to knowledge at all. Right? There's 12 major star constellations, all right, that operate throughout the 12 months of the year. So 12 has a spiritual meaning behind it. And there are 12 foundations likened to the 12 stones. Let's go back to this. Right? Verse 20. The fifth, sardonyx. The sixth, sardius. The seventh, chrysolite. The eighth, beryl. The ninth, a topaz. The 10th, a chrysoprasus. The 11th, a jacinth, and the 12th, an amethyst. And if you want to look these stones up, I encourage you to. Right? I wouldn't really go into it, but for sake of time, you can look up all of these stones and see how beautiful they are. Let's go to the book of Tobit. Right? So we are, again, before I get that, let's go to Isaiah 61. We are like a bride decked with stones. Let's go to Isaiah 61. It's also in Ezekiel, right? The 16th chapter. Isaiah chapter 61 and 10. We read this earlier. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh herself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. So these stones are the jewels of the bride and the foundation of the city, because the city is a bride, right? The Lord says that the bride will wear ornaments in an ancient world, you know? Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 10. This is the Lord speaking about us as a people. I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger skin, and I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments, and put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck, and I put a jewel on thy forehead. That's why we have chrysoprases, chrysolite, beryl, all of these stones, because we're like a bride with stones. And earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thine head. Thou wast decked, it's like thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, like any bride would, right? Any bride is going to have her ornaments, her jewels. And thy raiment was of fine linen. That's why the bride asked the fine linen, which is the righteousness of the saints, and silk embroidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour, honey, and oil, and thou was exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom. So this shows that a bride with precious stones is an actual kingdom. This links directly up with Revelation, the 21st chapter. We are decked out with precious stones as a city, but we're really a bride. Verse 20. The fifth, sardonyx, right? Revelation 21 and 20 again. The fifth, sardonyx. The sixth, sardius. The seventh, chrysolite. The eighth, beryl. The ninth, a topaz. The 10th, a chrysoprasus. The 11th, a jacinth. The 12th, an amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And this links directly up with Revelation 22 and 5 we read, right? Now, in a true kingdom of heaven, there will be a temple there. When you read Ezekiel, the 42nd chapter through 48, there will be an actual temple, because we're going to have sacrifices there for the other nations, right? They're going to have sacrifices done due to their transgressions. But keeping it in lieu or context of this city and this parable, there will be no temple, because the Lord Yahweh Bashmer Rashai is the temple. All right. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and a lamb is to light thereof. We covered that in Revelation 22 and 5, right? So that's how you know it's not an actual city with no actual temple, and with actual, it's all spiritual. Revelation 21 is a very deep chapter that, again, for the seventh time, twice told, likens the elect of Israel to a bride, and a bride is likened unto a city. All right. And we covered that the sun and the moon will always be here. We read that in Ecclesiastes 1, Jeremiah 31, and we also went into Genesis, the 8th chapter, that day and night will not cease. Verse 24. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. So this links up with Isaiah, the 60th chapter. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 60. Let me see where I'm at with time. All right. Well, this links directly up with Isaiah chapter 60 and 20. Right? Or 60 and 10 on down, that they're going to bring their wealth to us. When it says they're saved, that means they have been preserved. Right? They're going to bring tribute and wealth unto us as a people. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there should be no night there. Yeah, in the actual ancient city, they would shut the gates at night due to fear of the enemy, fear of robbers, the heathen, wild beasts, to destroy and harm those who dwell therein. But there will be no, it's like there will be no night and amongst us. There will be no darkness, no confusion. It's going to be daytime all the time. We don't need to shut our gates. There's no fear of the enemy or of the oppressor, right? So it's speaking about how peaceful and the state of serenity that we'll be in a world to come. But it's all written in hip talk, like the gates won't be shut, not going to be night there. It's all spiritual. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. Who's written in the Lamb's book of life? The elect. They're the partakers of the wedding. They are those who will enter into the marriage of the Lamb, not the 2/3, not these other nations. Those who dwell in the city, who are a part of the city, who are the walls of the city, that are 144 cubits. That perfect four square excludes anybody that has not repented nor kept the laws and commandments as an Israelite through faith. Revelation 21 breakdown the holy city and biblical secrets, right? Most High willing you are edified. Most High willing you understand what Revelation 21 is going into, right? Slakia. Get rid of that. Yeah, most High willing it was plain. If not, you have to go back, watch it again, rewind it, pause it, etc. But most High willing you were edified on this mighty Shabbat. Keep the Sabbath holy. No buying, no selling, no sex on the Sabbath, speaking your own words, doing your own pleasures. Keep the laws and commandments and the integrity of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Kwam Yashalom. Shalom.